This is hands down the worst thing this studio has ever produced, and I don't even think it's close. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're new to the channel, check it out. Let me know what you think. Let's dive into She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. I was holding on to a tiny sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, I would enjoy this show more upon second viewing and find more things to like about it. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I dislike this as much as I disliked it on my initial viewing. This show is not good, and it's a shame because based on She-Hulk's comic origins and kind of her backstory, this could have been a very compelling show, but it is very, very bad. It's hard to even parse through and find any redeeming qualities. There are a couple, but it's few and far between. I just want to get this out of the way first. If you've seen my previous videos about some of these Marvel Legacy characters, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of taking these legacy characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, and just rewriting them for a different gender, different race, different age, etc. I like when we introduce new characters with new origins, new power sets, etc. I don't want to just keep seeing the same characters over and over and over again. That being said, I am interested in She-Hulk from the comics just because I think her origin's really cool. Essentially, she, was prosecuting the criminal boss of a mafia family, and there was a hit put out on her, and the only way to save her life was with Hulk's blood, doing a blood transfusion. I think that's interesting. It could add some deep layers to this character. But that was all offset at the beginning of this show, and they ruined, essentially with the first episode, I knew this was going to be bad. The origin is completely flipped. She-Hulk gets her powers because her and Bruce are in a car wreck, and his blood just happens to leak into her cut. Awesome. That's like 101 on how you take a really compelling and interesting origin story and just disregard it and then make up a completely shitty origin story that's so lame and just lazy and doesn't really make any sense. Or make a compelling case of why I should care about this character and their origin. It's bad. I also just want to state very quickly, in case my words get taken out of context or I get some blowback for this, I don't care about female-led projects. I like some of them, I dislike some of them. It's no different than male-led projects to me. This show, it's bad, and that has nothing to do with it being female-centered. There are female heroes in this franchise that I care a lot about. Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, that's two examples right off the top of my head. This show is bad because it's badly written. As I alluded to moments ago with the origin of this character. Now, it gets worse as we go through this training montage between Bruce and Jen. There are ways to make your character good, compelling, and convincing, even if they're unlikable. See Stephen Strange, see Tony Stark. Both very, very unlikable at the beginning of their journeys, and then they have a reawakening and become heroes in the end. They attempt this same thing with Jen and She-Hulk, but because they make her come off so abrasive towards Bruce in the beginning of this series, you kind of just dislike her character because of that. She's rude just to be rude, essentially. The best example I can give Bruce is trying to coach her through how to deal with her anger now that she's this ridiculously powered superhuman, and how to become a hero and just kind of deal with her life as it's been changed because of this accident. That's all good. But Jen is constantly just rebuffing Bruce, saying like he doesn't know what he's talking about, she doesn't need his help, and she can deal with this all on her own, which is great. That's actually a good setup for this character going through an arc and a journey that leads her down the path of becoming a hero. They're beginning this with the reluctant hero, essentially, and that's fine. But there are lines of dialogue that they include that make you very much dislike their character. And the best example I can give is Bruce tells her, you know, you have to learn how to deal with this rage and this anger because you don't know how it's going to affect people if you lose control. You have this immense power, you have to understand that. Jen comes back with, hey Bruce, I can deal with my anger way better than you ever could. I know what I'm doing better than you ever knew you could do it. Because I deal with it every day with, you know, sexualized comments being directed toward me at work or being catcalled on the street, etc. And I do not want to take away from that struggle that many women deal with. Those are real things that happen, and, you know, it's bad. I don't think men in the workplace should be doing that. That's understandable. However, you cannot draw a comparison of people making rude or sexualized comments towards you in the canon of this universe towards Bruce Banner's character. In canon, this character has driven away his family because of what he has done. He was on the run for, you know, the better part of a decade from the government, who were trying to extract this power from him, potentially kill him, use him as a weapon. His whole life was uprooted. He had no connection with his family or anyone, even Betty, the woman he loved. He tried to kill himself, that's in canon. He tried to put a bullet in his mouth, he says that. He's had best friends who were lost fighting the villains in this universe, like Tony Stark. And he was forced to live in this alternate body for years, which we find out during Thor Ragnarok. And you're comparing this struggle that he's had with depression, attempted suicides, being estranged from his family, with the struggle of being catcalled on the street. That's not a fair comparison. You're not allowed to draw that comparison in this universe. That does not equate. So when they try to do that, it just comes off as Jen being an asshole, just to be an asshole. It doesn't quite match up to a, you know, pompous, self-indulged Tony Stark who cracks wise jokes and makes stupid comments. It doesn't equate to that. And because of that, you don't really love Jen's character throughout much of this series, because she's constantly doing that. She's constantly saying she knows better than everyone else, even though she's never been through this journey. Doesn't quite make sense. Going on from there, I don't love the structure of this story, and it comes from them changing the origin to this lame, lazily written, stupid origin. We get pretty much the case of the week style lawyer show, but it's not really, because we don't really focus on that many cases, and the ones we do are just dumb. The Megan Thee Stallion one, absolute worst scene in this entire universe. It's just so silly. The cases they deal with are so dumb and so silly and so ridiculous. They're not compelling, they're not enjoyable, there's not really a lot of lawyering going on. The one case that is compelling is when they have to defend Jen and try to get the naming rights for She-Hulk back. But even that, it's pretty stupid. I don't like the whole setup with Titania in this. They're supposed to be like very, very big adversaries for one another, and they're just, Titania gets wasted. She's not used a lot. In the moment she is used, it's just like, there's no setup to like this rivalry that they have. It's one scene in the first episode, and then all of a sudden, like, Titania is trying to ruin her life, and we don't get any really, there's no depth to any of that. I would have rather Here's my idea for this show that I think would have been 1,000 times better. You have Jen, who's this lawyer, this outstanding lawyer. She's very good at her job. Taking on the mob. They put a hit out on her. Bruce has to save her life against his better judgment of not wanting to pass this trait on to anyone else, but he does so because it's his cousin, it's his family, he wants to do that. Then you have her coming back, trying to take down this criminal organization that tried to kill her. Maybe this criminal organization is in bed with intelligentsia. Maybe they are hired hitters of intelligentsia. Not this stupid intelligentsia ran by Todd, who's just this misogynistic, cookie-cutter, lame stand-in for a villain. But maybe we bring the leader back. Maybe he used Abomination and compelled Abomination to try and take a hit on Jen. You have good characters in this show, but they don't use them well because the story is just amateur. You could have had this very compelling mafia takedown story with this lawyer who, even though she was almost killed, isn't scared, and she's not going to let that threat sway her from her goal, which is trying to do good in this community. And they didn't go that route. So then you have all these weird storylines that they try to interconnect in the finale that don't ever interconnect in any cohesive way. And they even make fun of this when Jen breaks the fourth wall, goes to Marvel Studios and said, hey, what are we doing? None of these storylines connect. And they try to make light of that and make fun of that, but it's like, they don't see how ironic this is, that these writers wrote this terrible show and now they're making fun of themselves for writing this terrible show. I don't think they realize that, hey, I know you're just trying to make a joke about this, but this show's actually terrible, and it's because of your terrible writing. Like, the finale, and I like Jen breaking the fourth wall. I like it with Deadpool. I think it's an interesting character trait. The Marvel Studios stuff I thought was funny in the end. Not the writing room, because they don't understand how ironic that is. But you have like this setup with Abomination, you have this setup with Intelligentsia, you have a setup with Bruce trying to make a return, and none of it, there's not even a way that I could see that they could bring that together. And so I honestly think what happened is, by episode like 6, they were like, fuck, how do we wrap this all up? Because we tried to do this Lawyer of the Week show, Case of the Week show, but then we also want to bring everything together, but it's really not possible with how we set everything up. Let's just blow it all up in the end. I honestly think that's what happened. I think these writers were stuck, and they were like, well, this is a fun idea, I suppose, so let's do this. And really what this should have been... I don't love Captain America 4 being a Hulk-centric movie without the Hulk. I think it's just nonsense. But if you're going to do that, you're going to bring the leader back and try to make him a threat in this universe. This show should have been a setup for the leader in Intelligentsia, which is his organization in the comics. Maybe he uses Abomination to try and stop Jen from taking down this criminal organization that he runs. And then there's a cliffhanger that sets up for Cap 4. Maybe you could even have Hulk and She-Hulk in it, since there's like 3 Hulk villains in that movie and no Hulk. But they didn't. They wasted the origin. A good origin. They wasted this show. The Daredevil episode was fun just because we get Daredevil back. I love the costume. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about all these side characters like Mr. Immortal and all these lame, D-tier villains and heroes they're trying to incorporate in this show. None of it's enjoyable, none of it's fun, none of it really connects or comes together in any cohesive way, and it's just a lazy show from beginning to end. And it's not funny. It's just, they try to make this show sort of a lighthearted comedy, but it is just the silliest, unfunny, stupid show that Marvel has ever produced. There have been complaints very recently about Marvel humor ruining the seriousness of this universe, and this is the best example. There is so much unfunny, forced humor in this show that it makes you want to turn it off every single episode. And I don't really have much else to say. Is there anything I liked about it? I like Tatiana Maslany as an actress. I think she's a very talented actress. I think she does good with what she's given. She's very good at breaking the fourth wall. I will say that. The first episode, the CGI is good. The rest of the series, it's not. It looks wonky and unfinished. It seems like they spent all the money CGIing Hulk and She-Hulk in that first episode, which is fine. But, let's be consistent. It looks bad the rest of the time. I like seeing Daredevil back. I like his yellow and red classic costume. That's cool. I like them making him more acrobatic. Some people didn't. That's how he's in the comics. I like it. That's about it. I like Abomination's new design. I thought bringing him back was a good idea, but they botched that too. So, what are you going to do? I don't know. The show's not great. I think it's the worst movie and or show this studio has ever done. And I don't ever want to watch it again.